If you live in the United States, you know this scene. You're walking up to your door, your hands are full, your arms are full, you're about to burst with all the stuff you're holding, and you can't even get in. You're trying to get just enough leverage on the doorknob with that one finger that you've got available, but you don't have enough to twist it open. It just won't cooperate. So you do what you have to do. You put everything down, you grab the doorknob, you twist it, open the door, pick everything back up, and walk through. And if you're like me, you use your foot to kick that door closed as you pass through. Well, when this happened to me for like the 100th time recently, I thought, what in the world are we doing? This doorknob kind of sucks. Why are we even using it at all when there are so many better options out there? Now, if you've traveled really anywhere outside of North America, you'll know that twist round doorknobs like these are not very common elsewhere. Why are they so common in the United States and not in other places? Well, just about every other country has embraced levers and latches, both of which are so much easier to use inside or outside the home. It is true that in commercial spaces and industrial spaces, we see different types of hardware here in the US, and that's pretty common. But as soon as you take it into a residential area, you're gonna see doorknobs just about everywhere. What I didn't understand until I started digging into this though is why. The reason is because in the 1800s, when patents started to take off and then we started to have this mass production of products and industrialization taking place, doorknob patents were coming out and they were strong. Cast metal, pressed glass, porcelain, you name it, the factories that were building hardware for doors were building knobs. Once you have all the machinery in place to build those, it becomes way more affordable to make more of them as opposed to switching gears and making levers, for example. Another big aspect here is the look and the feel of these, the aesthetics. So the Victorian style era that we were experiencing at that time loved the look of the doorknob because you had so many different intricacies that you could implement with doorknobs where levers just maybe didn't meet that need. Even just while I was preparing for this video, I took my wife to the hardware store so we could pick out some levers to use to replace our doorknobs. And she looked at all of them and said, I kind of like the look of the doorknobs better. It's just what we're used to. And I have to admit, I'm the same way. I'm used to it. And that's because that's all we ever see here in America, for most of us anyway. Another factor here is that doorknobs with the twist mechanism are easier to mass produce because they have less intricate parts inside. So the levers require smaller parts that, at least back in the day, were a little bit more difficult to effectively and efficiently produce. So doorknobs won out there as well. By the time anyone maybe even started thinking about whether levers were a better option, it was too late. Doorknobs are so ingrained in our culture that that's just what we expect. And I am totally one of those people who I just expect doorknobs. In fact, when I just finished a basement recently, it started out as a blank slate, nothing in it. And when it came time to buy doorknobs or levers or latches for the doors, I did not even consider levers or latches. For me, 100% doorknobs across the board. It didn't even cross my mind because I am so used to just doorknobs all the time. Speaking of unfinished basements, if you've ever looked through all of the stuff that you've got down there, you probably found some stuff that's kind of unsavory and that you wish you just didn't have to deal with at all. And that's pretty similar to what we find out online. There are tons of companies, websites, and data brokers out there that have all of your information. They have your personal phone number, your name, your email address, your physical address, all this kind of stuff that they can use to either scam you or to steal your identity, which is pretty crazy. Most people aren't aware that that stuff is even out there behind all these closed doors, but also have no idea how to get rid of it. And that's where Incogni comes in. Right now I'm looking at my dashboard, and just in the last 4 days, they have sent 388 requests to have my information removed. Incogni also has this cool tool called custom removals, and I just tried it out. I actually found a site that had my phone number, my full name, my physical address. I sent the custom removals form into Incogni, and they're working on it, and they're gonna take care of that for me, so I don't have to go figure out how to or where to or spend that time. They can't harm you if they can't find you. Take back your personal data with Incogni. Use code LRN at the link below to get 60% off annual plans. So I'm gonna let Incogni keep doing its thing, which lets me go back to doing mine. I decided to start looking into whether doorknobs were at all common in other places in the world. And lo and behold, just like the imperial system that we use for some reason for measurement instead of metric, which I just don't get, doorknobs are kind of our thing. They're actually invented in the 1800s by an American who, by the way, was 16 years old when he came up with the concept and eventually patented the doorknob. Now, if I look at Airbnb listings, for example, in Japan, in Germany, in South America, in the Middle East, and what did I see time after time? Levers everywhere. The US, it's hard to find levers, although I will say they are starting to get some traction. Next up, I looked at home builders across the United States, ones that have a massive presence and are building homes all over the country. And as I looked, I definitely saw a lot of doorknobs, but there was a silver lining here. I did start to see levers, a little bit here and a little bit there. So they are out there. There's just not nearly as many of them as we have regular doorknobs. So for most of the world, levers are actually less expensive to produce because it's really simple once we have that machinery. In the US, we focused more on the machinery for doorknobs, but let's look at why these levers are so beneficial. Obviously, the biggest advantage of levers versus doorknobs is that you can open them with virtually anything. You can use such popular techniques as the foot lever, the knee lever, the elbow lever, the closed fist lever, one of my favorites, the butt lever, the classic forehead lever, the shoulder lever, and my all-time favorite, the chin lever. Another factor that a lot of people don't consider is that a lot of our code that's around Americans with disabilities is focused on using levers because they're so much easier to open. Not only for those of us that are completely able-bodied, but for those with disabilities as well. It's just a lot simpler mechanism and it just opens a lot more doors quite literally for just about everybody. You saw earlier where I was, without thinking about it at all, buying doorknobs for my basement. Well, that was part of the basement finishing course that we just finished producing, and it walks you through every step of finishing your own basement so you can save tens of thousands of dollars in the process. In fact, on that basement that you saw, we saved $47,000 by doing it ourselves as opposed to hiring it all out. Now, if you want to get started on your basement for as little as about $1,500 to do the framing and get started on that first step, check us out at DIYbasement.com. This long history that we have manufacturing doorknobs versus levers has had an impact on the prices of the doorknobs versus levers in the stores today. Just when I went to the store this week to look at knobs versus levers, doorknobs were almost universally less expensive than levers were, which is unfortunate because I'd rather have levers in my house, but I don't want to pay 20, 30, 50% more for them. This is part of our culture and part of the upbringing that we have, being used to doorknobs. All that being said, I can tell you this much. The next house that I build, that we move into, all levers, no knobs. They just make more sense. But since I don't plan on moving anytime soon, I've replaced the doorknobs on both my front door and my garage door with levers. So you won't find me putting down all my stuff just to open the door anymore. Speaking of weird American traditions, if you want to find out why our holes have plugs in them and why it feels so odd if you see ones that don't, check out this video right here. I'm Nils with Learn to DIY. Thanks for watching.